Hey everyone, happy to take a little break here and make a video for you on something that is relevant to me right now as I start to think forward to the dissertation part of the doctoral program that I'm in. So probably many of you know that I am a Doctor of Education student at South College. This video is talking about how to get started or not leaving the dissertation to the very end. And there's two reasons why I want to share that. So for many people who are doing the South College doctoral degree, they have an aim to accelerate because there's the option. With competence-based education, you can go at your own pace and you can actually even move forward in courses as fast as you can reach mastery level in the assignments. But if you're not interested in acceleration, you can think of it as how to be efficient with your time and money, because obviously the longer you spend in a program, generally the more you pay. So WGU taught me to really start ideating early on so that I didn't wait till the very end of a program to come up with a really intelligent, well thought out concept. You know, it's very hard to grind out creativity. I mean, there are exercises for this. However, a lot of time we have to allow for certain spaciousness. We can allow for some breathing room for ideas to bubble up. Anyways, so it can help us accelerate if we think about the dissertation early, as well as I'm finding it helps build excitement. Because let's say you're around the middle of your program, at that point you have done probably dozens and dozens of assignments. You're starting to feel a little bit of the burnout or tiring process of doing work consistently. Instead of thinking, oh, you know, I can't wait to be done this program, it's nice to think, oh, I can't wait to get to my dissertation where I can investigate something that is really meaningful to me or something that I'm excited about. And for me, as I started to frame a topic, I started to get excited for the dissertation. So it kind of picked up my energy a bit, boosted me, and thought, you know, I really want to continue to work on these courses to get closer to that dissertation. The rest of the video, I'm going to talk a bit about my process and what I've done, and I'll try to keep it concise, but I want to give some clear takeaways for you so that you can do something similar if it's relevant and you're in a similar type of doctoral program. So the first one I'm going to call early awareness and engagement. And what I mean by this is just being aware that there is a dissertation coming and what maybe some of those requirements might be and what potential ideas you would have. Now, you don't have to figure this all out on your own. If you're at South College, you have a program mentor. Now, the thing is, you have to make sure your program mentor is on board for you starting to think early. So I just flat out asked, is it okay if I start thinking early about my dissertation? And her response was very firmly, absolutely. And she advocates for that, and she wanted to give me even designated meetings with her to start thinking about how to start, not necessarily what my topic will be, but just how to start the process. So we started to build in a few meetings about what the dissertation was, and that in this program, that includes having a data set, secondary research. So you're not creating primary research in this dissertation. So she kind of gave me examples in these meetings of what that might look like, and there was a whole range of examples. She also gave me access to the orientation again, which I think I already had access to, but she told me the orientation is built with a new dissertation section, and it has a bunch of resources on how to really start to think about what secondary sources are or a data set and how to find them and just what a dissertation is. And so she gave me access and asked me to look through, and I wrote down my questions, and then the next meeting I came to her with them. Of course, she's not the instructor or facilitator of that research course, so she can't answer all of it, but she can give me her kind of generalized idea or what she's seen. She also said early on that at one point I can ask her if I can be paired up with an existing or current dissertation student, and they can share some of their best practices or things they've learned, insights, input, anything to help me kind of feel a little bit more confident prior to going into that course. Now again, there's two courses, the 7800, and then there's the 7900, where there's 5 chapters that need to be written and reviewed by your committee and whatnot. So the next stage I would call exploration and ideation, or idea generation. And for me, what I needed to do was just kind of dump out my initial ideas to my program mentor and just see, is this in the ballpark of what's expected, what you've seen, what you think is expected? From there, I said, well, what if my approach is to kind of first look at what data I have available within my workplace? Because I really want to utilize my Doctor of Education as a platform to enhance my work. And that's the added benefit of a EDD versus a PhD is that there's a lot of practitioner perspective involved. I told her right away, what if I set up a meeting with my employer just to kind of get a sense of what data is available and that might lead to ideas? And she was like, yes, that's a great idea. She also suggested that I look at past examples of dissertations that were completed. Now, because the program's fairly new over the last couple of years, there's only a handful that are actually available. And one place that she told me was the official Facebook group. There's a file section on the group if you're part of the group. And there are a couple dissertations currently that are there, so I was able to look at those. She did suggest going to ProQuest, which a lot of scholarly work is posted there. However, I touched base with a librarian, and they said that there wasn't necessarily a subscription anymore to ProQuest for South College. I also just consulted with some other Facebook group members about their experiences and what things I should be thinking about, and just some of the best practices that they stumbled into over their direct experiences. So from there, I needed to start to think about, I'm going to call this data selection, or looking at where can I get this data, or this data set, in my case, secondary research. So I booked a meeting with my employer, and in this case, it was a head of a school. It can't just be anyone. To me, it has to be somebody who is kind of in charge, has authority to make decisions. We discovered that there's a bunch of data set in the school. We also talked about what type of form would be useful to draft so that I can request access to that data. Other approaches are to just find publicly available data, and I think a lot of people do in this program. And one suggestion on the orientation for the dissertation is to touch base with a librarian, because they have skills at retrieving or finding information, and so they can help the process as well. So after talking with my employer, I made a comprehensive list of what I thought were potential data sets, and I ranked them as to ones that I thought were most feasible to use and for an actual project that was comprehensive, as well as personal preferences. And this is where I think when you're thinking about data selection, you now want to think about what type of data would you like to analyze? Is it qualitative data? Is it quantitative data, or is it mixed? And I think there are three ways of looking at this or deciding this. For me, I was thinking, well, what am I already skilled at? I'm very skilled at looking at qualitative data. I've done a lot of theme finding, and I really enjoy that process. So the next thing is, what do I want to become more skilled at? And I want to become more skilled at qualitative analysis, because I feel like I've only got a certain level of exposure through a master's degree, and I want to take it further. I want to practice coding with qualitative data. It's not like programming coding. It's a different type of coding to uncover themes, and I want to create some sort of study with those themes. So what you're skilled at, what you want to become even more skilled at, and then what do you want to be known as a researcher? So when you finish a doctorate, you're finishing a terminal degree, and there may be questions from employers, so whether you're in industry or in academia, and they might want to ask about what you have experience with. So I can't necessarily just go do a robust quantitative analysis, and nor do I really want to do that. So from there, what I did was I crafted or just drafted a very initial research plan, which I know is quite premature because I'm not even in the 7800 course. I don't know exactly how the program wants me to create a plan, but I'm just doing this knowing that I've already done this process before in my master's degree. I also teach research methodology at one of the post-secondaries that I work at, so I kind of understand what a draft would look like. From there, I'm starting to think about, well, how could this data set lend to a topic? How could it lend to a problem statement or a research question? And I'm starting to write that out in different ways. I want to mention something quickly, is that you can't actually do your research until later on. Actually, you can't even do the research until the final course, and probably after your chapters 1, 2, and 3 are reviewed. And at that point, once you've got approval, you go through an IRB exemption process, I believe, for this specific doctorate, because you're using secondary research, and then you can look closely at the data and do an analysis or whatever you're doing with the data from there on. Just remember that. From there, I needed to confirm that I was on the right track. Now, I don't recommend that you just start emailing a bunch of research course instructors or the program director at this point. I think they will probably think you are maybe stepping forward too fast, and if they don't get context. So what I did was I actually emailed my program mentor and got written approval that I could touch base with one of the instructors from the research course. And I knew who they were because, again, when you're in the Facebook group, you start to hear and understand things. And luckily, one of the research course instructors or the facilitator was one that I had for 2 courses already. So I just shared briefly my idea around the data set and very, very concisely my topic idea and why I thought it was relevant to this program. So keep in mind, this was after my program mentor gave me the thumbs up. She actually said, absolutely, no problem. So from there, that course instructor was more than happy to kind of take a look. She said that she thought it was a reasonable way of approaching the project. I mean, they're going to be tentative at this point because I'm not in the course, but really what I needed to know is this data set at all suitable? Like, is there some hard lines as to what you can and can't use as a data set? So I asked her if she could touch base with somebody else just to confirm that, and she did with a few other people that are higher up and kind of in that research course. And they also gave kind of some thumbs up. At this point, they're kind of saying, yes, it seems like it would be suitable. So that's kind of what I need to know at this point. And it's in writing, and I'm happy to know that. I mean, obviously, I have to wait until the course to really ensure that it is, but this gives me a bit of an indicator if I'm on the right track. So the next step for me is kind of that topic refinement or problem statement part. I want to refine that. I really want to come to a clearer understanding, and that's where reading different research literature as it relates to the topic will help clarify. I think a lot of people believe that they just have to like dream up or conjure up some really intelligent thoughts around this. However, for me, reading is really important. Now, I'm not in that course yet, but I'm going to self-direct my learning by looking at research in that area already. What's been done, what hasn't been done, what's been documented. I want to create a case as why this topic matters. So what's important is when you are trying to refine your problem statement or your topic is to track and organize any scholarly sources that you feel is relevant. Now you can do the old school way. When I was in my first master's almost like 10 years ago, I just printed a bunch of articles and I was highlighting things and putting them in folders. But nowadays there are so many online tools, like if you use Mendeley, or I think it's called Zorin, which are reference manager tools. They're a great way to organize scholarly sources. So set that up. Eventually you're going to probably need to create an annotated bibliography. So, you may even want to create yourself annotations as you're reading articles that you feel are relevant, because that's going to help you down the road in other assignments. But it's just going to help you when you have to go back to those research articles and you need to know what they're about and why they might be relevant. Again, an annotated bibliography is not just a summary, it's a way of critically thinking about the relevance of that research as it relates to your topic, as well as the usefulness or degree of usefulness, because it might not necessarily be completely useful. And just another point is I did circle back to my mentor and let her know this conversation that I was having with the research course instructor and the approvals that I got, or I'll call them informal approvals at this point, just so that she's aware and everyone's kind of on the same page. And part of the topic refinement is, for me, what I like to do is I like to write my topic in different ways so that I get a kind of a really well-rounded view of how to communicate it. So I like to write like a long description of that topic. I like to write a really short, concise, maybe one-line description of it. I like to write a detailed description. I like to write a general description. I like to write a specific one. I like to write unspecific. And what I'm trying to do is gain clarity on how to communicate it and be precise. I also want to be able to communicate it to different audiences. So I want to be able to adapt the way it's written to suit those different audiences. So eventually when I get into 7800, I'm going to feel really confident, ready to go, and get the feedback that I need, because it's not like I've established everything and I'm 100% confident. I do need to go through the course to really understand, first of all, can it just be perfectly framed into a research project, and then, making it really tight and ready to implement for the next stage, which is the actual dissertation. All right, so those are my key processes. Just to recap, I kind of explained that you want to be aware, that early awareness and engagement. Also, exploring and generating ideas is the second part. Being able to select the data or understand where you can acquire that data. In this case, secondary source data. Some dissertations, it's more primary research that needs to be done. Building an initial research plan, and then refining that topic over time. Well, you can drop your questions in the comments below. That's where I tend to engage with people. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in another video.